And if when I call on you, if you could just say your full name and how you knew Jean, that would be great. And if you want to stay muted, everyone else, that's fine. If you want to comment back and forth, you know, there's enough of us so we can control that. So briefly, the story. So as I said, Jean and Janice here attended Western Kentucky together, and they had a class with Michael N. Williams. And apparently one of the assignments was to pick an everyday item and write about it. And I honestly forget what Ginny chose, but apparently Jean chose a hash pipe. And I thought that was pretty good, pretty interesting. And I wish I had the paper that explained that, how she explained that. So I'm going to hand this off to Eileen, who was the second folklorist after Jean.
You're muted, Eileen. There you go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eileen Condon. I'm a public sector folklorist, still working in New York City. I crossed over into public sector work with the job that I took in Poughkeepsie back in 2004. I came on board in October 2004. And one thing that was kind of remarkable was that when I did the interview for that position, Jean was part of the interview. And that was actually the first time I met Jean. And I remember that as folklorists, you know, we had certain kinds of common jokes in common. And I just remember meeting her and liking her immediately, and feeling that although she was the outgoing folklorist, that she was somehow on my side in that interview. And so when I came on board, we had a dinner at an Italian restaurant in Poughkeepsie. And that was like my second meeting of Jean, you know, where she was outgoing and I was incoming, and she was just so gracious. And we have some nice photos from that dinner. And that was my initial meeting with Jean. But the way I got to know Jean in some ways was going into the office and looking at the treasure trove she had left behind for me as a folklorist newly crossing out of academe into the whole public sector world. And the big difference for us as folklorists, you know, moving from one side to the other, I think, is that you realize that when you do field work in communities, you have an opportunity to meet so many different people and to work with so many different traditions, to learn about so many more kinds of art than I think you would as the kind of field worker that might do a single project per year, or, you know, maybe a few projects per year. It was a really different way to study traditional arts, to do it in a public sector setting. And I was so excited. I remember opening the file cabinets and looking at all the work that Jean had done before me in that position. And it was the best introduction I could possibly get to the cultural groups, the occupational groups, the religious groups that were all part of our mandate to study and somehow invite into a public sphere to talk about their experience. And so just looking through Jean's interview files, they're very meticulous. She would take handwritten notes. She recorded in all kinds of different genres there was a really interesting archive in the office. And so that was one introduction to Jean. But then over time, I realized how gracious she was in terms of showing me around, making introductions. I mean, here she had just left this job and she was still willing to take phone calls about it any time. Or, you know, if I was freaked out about running my first great big event and worrying about the sound system or whatever I was worried about, she was right there to make suggestions, to connect me with the people that I needed to be connected with. And she was willing to do that most any time. And slowly but surely, we naturally became friends. And one of the interesting things about that folk art position is that pretty much everybody was in the position became friends with the next person. And so we all ended up, you know, having left the job, still going back to some of the folk arts events in Dutchess County. So I remember, you know, going to Ranga Praveshams, the Indian classical dance graduation performances together as a bunch of folklorists who had all been in the same job. And so I just, you know, as all of us could, you could go on and on about all the wonderful aspects of having been friends and colleagues of Jean's. I guess I feel like one of the biggest things she taught me was her dedication to recognizing the economic struggles of others from a place of financial security. Jean came from a pretty financially secure family, but she never was unaware of other people's economic struggles. She took, I kind of thought of Jean as the folklore Catholic worker house in a way, because she was so willing to take people into her home. She had an extended network of, I guess you could say, common law in-laws because of her Mexican partner. All of those people could come and stay in the house whenever they needed to. They stayed for long periods of time in some cases, as I understand. She would take in artists. She would give people work. She used her store to give people work when they needed it. She was always so tuned into people's economic struggles, and she just made that part of her work, whether it was doing that or the fair trade aspect of her store. She cultivated personal relationships with artists in Mexico, and rather than just sort of taking the items and reselling them at a high profit, which anybody could do, she ran it as a fair trade enterprise, and she sent the money back in a fair exchange kind of way. So I could go on and on and on, but those are some of the things that I'm so appreciative that Jean was able to teach me.
Before the next person, I want to point out that even now, 20 some years later, I am benefiting from Jean's work. And on this call, you know, on the Zoom, we have Ray Watkins, Sadhana Bhargava, Alice Wong, Josephine Green, all of who worked with Jean and still work with me today. And I can also say that I am slowly transferring the cassette tapes to digital, which will eventually they'll all be transferred. Unfortunately, she also used like Super 8 and VHS, and I don't know what all else. And I have no idea how we're going to transfer those and things. And someday I'm going to get an intern whose job will be to scan all of her photos in. But who would like to go next? You can raise your hand. You can unmute and just start. Okay,
I'll go next because most of you do not know me. I met Jean when I was working at the Canine Hackett Arts Center, and she found out that I was first generation Ukrainian, and I got her involved in some of our functions. I belong to the Ukrainian Women's League, and she was so interested in our culture. And when Eileen, you said that slowly but surely you became friends, there was no slowly with her, it was like surely you became friends with her because she was so giving, and you just felt like you knew her forever. And then we participated in some fair trade shows because I'm also an artist. That's where some of you probably have seen me before. We did some fair trade shows together. I'm also an art therapist, and for those of you who know Joanne Fagenheimer, good friend of mine. So we all were part of that whole beginning where Arts Mid-Hudson was at the Kunene Hackett Art Center. So that kind of gave us our little bond. And I'm always grateful for her because she showed me the way and introduced me to a lot of different people that I did not know in different cultures, which I wasn't privy to before. So I'm forever grateful to her and miss her terribly. That's it.
Ray, do you want to go next?
Who?
You.
Oh, well, I think I think I met her through Sherry. And Sherry was in charge. That was the Dutchess County Arts Council then. And I'm not sure if Sherry came to me or if I came to her, but I was looking for something. And Sherry was able to direct me to what I was looking for. And somewhere along the line, I got to meet this young lady who we're celebrating today. Now, it's a terrible thing when your memory's gone and you forget who you're talking about. But anyway, it's not funny, Sherry. But we worked together on gospel for 13 years. We started a Giving It Back. I think that's what it was called. And for 13 years straight, we had a gospel concert at the First Presbyterian Church every year. Didn't realize until I did get involved with these folks that that type of music was considered folk music, right? Didn't know that. I just thought it was the music that we sang in church from Sunday to Sunday. But it was also something that we were doing that was handed down from generation to generation. So Jane was very instrumental in keeping that program going and passing it on to other folklorists that came after her. Got the pleasure of working with all of them. Also, there was a group from my youth that I couldn't stand. They were called the Beatles. But somehow she got me stuck on the Beatles too. Amazing. Never thought I would do that. But I did sing a Beatles song at her memorial. Mother Mary, speaking words of wisdom, let it be, let it be. So I have nothing but praises for Jean. She was a wonderful human being. I was hurt badly when I heard the news of her passing. I do thank Sherry and all the folklorists came after her for the work they did and the work that they're still doing, Eleanor, in preserving gospel music. So I just want to say thanks. I'm done.
And it's because of Jean's work that we've been able to revive, in many respects, the gospel concerts. It's now a festival. It'll be the first weekend of Saturday of October in 2022. But also, you know, one of the wonderful things I found in relation to Ray was an interview she did with Ray's father. And to sort of hear, you know, the words of his father and hear his father's voice was joyful to me. And I know it was a blessing to Ray. And also this year, the Dutchess County Arts Awards honored the Rainbow Singers, which was another group that she introduced to all of us. And so that was really great too. Unfortunately, staff wasn't allowed because of COVID. Staff didn't get to go to the awards because there's a limited number of people. And I haven't seen the video yet, but my understanding is they brought the house down.
They did very.
And so I'm going to pass this off to Alice Wong.
Hello, everybody. So I think that I participate in one of Ray's concert also with the Abraham Stars. Actually, you know, and we got to sing with Pete Seeger at that time, celebrating his birthday. And for Jean to brought us together and to get to know Ray and then expand my horizon and like tap into different cultures in the Hudson Valley. I am forever grateful for her work. How I met her is, I still remember, I have a very vivid memory that she came to my house, sat down with me, and she turned on her tape because her like recorder and said that like, can I interview you? We were doing something on a traveling trunk for the Mid-Hudson Children's Museum, that she wants to have the Chinese culture as part of that. So she came to my house and we talked about how did, at that point, you know, I'm still a little bit younger than I'm now. So it's at least like about, when was that? I forgot because my children were young, but now my children are adults and they're married. And we start talking about our heritage. We start talking about what would represent the Chinese culture. Well, then she got me into the folk art program because that elicits a lot of my childhood memories, like games we play and the food we eat, the like craft we would do, the celebrations that we would do. So after that, I worked with Polly and she is now in San Francisco. So, and we start doing a yearly, we would do the Chinese celebration in the library. And we got invited to like other cultural groups, like the Jewish celebration, to share our culture. And then we would do the street fair in Beacon, and we would do the festival in like the riverfront. And the most wonderful thing is she helped the Chinese community to recognize that we have a place in the Dutchess County. She helps the younger, because of her idea, open up to me an opportunity for me to bring the younger generation, our next generation, at that point it was my children's generation, to participate and then like to have an identity, who we are, and bring out the heritage. And one of that is for Ray's Gospel Festival. We brought a group from the church. We call them the Abraham Stars because there are many of us. And then they were the shining stars. And also, upon that, we have the food. We made like, you, Eleanor, you're so brave of me. I was laughing that when we sent off that I said that I dust the art Mid-Hudson. Remember that? You were so brave when we do the noodle shop, that all these flowers got on everything, get on the books, get on the display, and
That was the
Also-
first and last time we were allowed to have a food workshop at the office.
yes, yes. But
She
then
did
it
a
was
she
such
did a noodle, a hand
tossed noodle.
hand tossed noodles, and I had to take down the exhibits that was existing, and but we were cleaning up flour for days.
Yeah. And then thereafter that we traveled to Kingston, we traveled to across the river to Orange County, different libraries, different festivals. And she's just amazing. I believe that one of the tapes that you may be like transcribing will have my voice in it. So I should have a copy, but then after all this years,
When I do transcribe them, I will be sending copies to the people featured in them. So
yeah. So that's how wonderful. And then I'm forever grateful. That's how we started like involvement with the Arts Mid-Hudson. Back then it was the Arts Council. So that's where I met Jean. And she is so understanding. She has been very patient with how I am, just like slowly bringing back my memories, sharing things that was important, and turn out to that is important. So that's how I have a sweet memory with Jean.
Cool.
who would like to go next? Or I can call on you. Elena, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll take a shot, and thank you, Eleanor, for inviting us, and it's been really great to blast from the past, see Sherry. God, I can't remember how all so long ago working on all those festivals with Jean, and the thing I just want to kind of build on some of the stuff that Eileen said about like some of the work that Jean said. I came to New York, back to New York City, to work at City Lore to become a folklorist. I think it was 1997. And then went to the round table for the first time. That's where I met Jean, the Niska round table. All the folk artists and folklorists go there, and Jean was in the cohort of like when I joined, started becoming a folklorist in New York City, and that's where I met Hannah and Jean, and it was great to like be able to get into this folklore scene in New York City, New York State, and Jean and Hannah were the people that I met like right away, so that was really great. And one of the things, but interesting, it's sort of Jean's work. I can't speak to like the specifics of Jean's work. I worked for many festivals. I worked with Jean in Rockland County, Dutchess County, and different festivals she organized. I can't. It's been a long time, and I wasn't there doing the original like when she was organizing things. I was there like working at the festival itself. But I think Jean sort of like was in the folklore field at that time when the idea of festivals, like these big festivals with all different kinds of artists from all different communities, were really like were funded a lot. So that was like a thing. That was sort of like what a lot of folklorists were doing at that time, late '90s, early 2000s. That was there was all these sorts of big festivals that not really, maybe there were some themes to them, I guess, but they were just bringing in just a lot of the different cultural constituencies of the different communities where we were. This was out throughout New York State, and so Jean was really important in those festivals and that circuit, upstate and in New York City as well that were going on. And then Jean, as Eileen said, started getting into, she opened her store and became really interested in fair trade and working directly with the artists, as well as the festival stuff, but getting into the sort of like the fair trade. And and having a space, a platform for the artists themselves to show their work. And I think that was just really, again, as people have mentioned, that was just who Jean was. I mean, that's what she did, and you know, her work reflected her personality and who she was. But I also think it's so sad that where would, you know, to see like where would Jean have been now, because she was like doing this stuff, like these are what we're all doing now anyway, you know, we're all dealing with these equity issues and helping artists, you know, and work, you know, making sure the artists themselves have more, a lot more power and in the work that they do. And Jean was really in the forefront of that. And you know, I don't know, it would have been amazing to see what she would have been doing now, you know, a decade later, with, you know, in the work that she would, where she would have taken it. But I just have to just say that like my work, you know, it's sort of we started together in that sort of festival, the community festival era of NISCA funding and New York State festivals at that time. And I sort of like cut my teeth in the folklore world with Jean that way. So it was a great way to get into the folklore world here. So it's what I, fond memories of that with Jean. Thanks.
And thank you for bringing up, you know, her role, and you and Eileen both discussing how she, you know, how she worked with the folk artists and how she viewed them, and her wanting to raise the bar for, in a sense, for all of us, but you know, raise the awareness and making sure that they got fair stipends, which we still struggle with today, and, you know, fair representation. And I'd like to think that as for those of you who don't know, I also work for New York Folklore. I'm their professional development coordinator. That, you know, as we move towards making sure our artists are more prepared to market themselves and be able to understand the business aspects of being an artist, that, you know, Jean was thinking about all that as well. Sherry, can I pass it off to you?
I don't know. I was not, I didn't know what the format was going to be today. So I wasn't sure how long I could sit here without having to talk. And I'm not at all sure what I'm going to say. Because like I said, I was not kind of in the memorial service headset. I wasn't
Right.
sure what we were preparing
Well,
for.
it doesn't have to be memorial service headset. It could just be, you know, how you worked with her during those years that you were with Artsman.
Or I was just going to say, like, random thoughts have been going through my mind. Like, I see David and Jean playing accordion in the office in the morning. You know, just kind of random thoughts have been going through my mind. And someone mentioning the tapes and those little, she would make composite tapes for holidays, for gifts or whatever. So those are kind of the stray thoughts that are going through my mind. If I was to be, I guess, a little more serious, Jean was a really important part of growing the folk arts program. I refuse to say starting it, Eleanor. But she definitely was the jumping off point to have somebody dedicated to Dutchess County in terms of pursuing the folk arts. And we shared a commitment to connecting arts and people. And I think that was an important synergy in our relationship. It meant that I was always supportive and excited and encouraged when she came up with a crazy idea, because it meant it was going to take the arts and the connections between the peoples in a direction that it needed to be. At that time, Dutchess County was a little bit of an elitist arts world, and we both felt the need to explore many more alternatives than they were. So we met with, we explored, we introduced so many different kinds of people with each other, and grew and started relationships. I guess it was Eileen. I remember going to Kantum's daughter's graduation, you know, and those relationships just sort of built. I think it also, I mean, we all have our quirks. And I also am always hesitant to pretend that people, because they've passed on early, we're not human. Jean was very much a human, and she was a person, and she was a person who could combine a lot of things, but also a person who sometimes would just, not be in the mood to do it. So those are all kinds of the things that we need to work through, and that we did, and that we had a wonderful growth to the folk arts program. There was another stray thought that was wandering through, which has wandered past. Oh, I know what it was. In terms of, as she was developing her work within the Latino community, helping me to learn to do a speech in Spanish for Comité Mi Gente, one of their events, which was a real riot because I totally blew it. But she was so patient in terms of trying to help me. I wanted to do this little thing, and I'm not a Spanish speaker. But, always willing to give it a try. And if it didn't work, we'd laugh. If it didn't work, we'd laugh and we'd move on. We were all saddened. And I agree, it's kind of interesting to wonder what the next 10, 15, however many years would have seen Jean doing. And I know it would have been wonderful, and I know that we all would have benefited from it. But we benefit from the memories that we have and the work that was done and the foundation on which we grow. So that's it.
Okay, I need to hear more about this accordion business because I love the accordion. So I'm going to ask David Ringwood to speak and perhaps play if it's nearby.
It's not nearby, Eleanor. You're one of the few people that actually like the accordion. That was one of the jokes. I came in one morning. I worked at the Dutchess County Arts Council. Sherry let me cut my teeth in non-for-profit world, and now I'm working with the local regional representative for the New York Council of Nonprofits in the Mid-Hudson region. But I came in one morning early, and in the back office, in the space over the Bardavon, was the back workroom, huge tables combined, and that's where we do mailings and do the newsletters, etc. And as I came in the front door, I heard accordion music coming from that back room. And the door was only opened a crack, and I had no idea who was in there. So I slowly approached it and opened it up. And there was Jean sitting there with this honkin' accordion playing music. And I surprised her. I said, oh my gosh, I said, I actually have an accordion at home. My grandfather, and this probably could have been something for folklore, my grandfather was one of the workers working on the Mid-Hudson Bridge. He had come here his parents were from Canada, and they went to Boston. He came here, met my grandmother working on the bridge in the neighborhood, and stayed here. And he had an accordion, and he would play this one song over and over. It's one song that we heard whenever he played. And I was kind of musical in the family, and when he passed, everyone got to the house, and my mother made some comment about, oh, well, the accordion came up, and my mother said, well, David has his accordion. She goes, go get it. And I brought it in, and what they had no idea is that one day he had taught me that song. And I pulled the accordion out, and I started playing that crazy little tune that he used to play. And I still have no idea what the tune was, but it's very simple. And I played that, and I told Jean, I said, I've got this accordion that I played. Now, she had the keyboard one. Mine was actually the button ones, which is a little, I don't know. I've got a couple of them now, but we started talking about the accordion, and I told the story about the only song that I knew. And Jean had been buying books and teaching herself how to play the accordion. And we talked about the different kinds of music you play on accordion, and I'll never forget it. She started playing Led Zeppelin's Whole Lotta Love on the accordion for me. And it is a sparkling little happy memory that I have of Jean that just totally shocked me, but endeared her to me as well. I always enjoyed working with Jean and Sherry and the whole crew that was there at the Dutchess County Arts Council at the time. And I was very saddened to hear about her truly untimely passing. And that's just a little sparkle I have when I think of Jean, one of the many things she did. But always makes me smile. And I'm glad that Sherry brought that up and that she remembers it too. Thank you for doing this evening.
Oh, you're welcome. Who would like to go next? Anyone? Okay, Hannah.
Yeah. Hi, it is really nice to see everybody here. Some I see often, some not so often, but let's see. I want to talk to what Elena said. I came to New York, I think the same time Elena did, and I landed at NISCA. So I met everybody at the round table, Nancy as well. And but it really was, I think that Elena and Jean were definitely my cohort. And I had to go around and visit everybody and see what work they were doing. And that was the fun part of me. And it was a great education into what was going on in New York State. I'm from Massachusetts. So, some stuff's the same, some stuff is different, but having Jean as my guide in Dutchess County and also being close to my age, it was a natural bonding thing. So it was wonderful. And then a few years later, I left NISCA and I went to work at the museum at Eldred Street. And I got to hire Jean for about, I think, four years or so to be my lieutenant at the Egg Roll and Egg Cream Festival. And it was great because I had the idea, I knew where to send her, but I didn't have all the much time to do the field work. And she went out and into both the Chinese community in Chinatown and then into Borough Park and found me some very talented Jewish folk artists that I just had never had the chance to go to. And I would say Jean is fearless in a way, like nothing was, I gave her, this is what I need. She went out, she drove all around, and it led her into New Jersey. She found me some great rabbis that did some crazy calligraphy and other really deep Jewish stuff that I never would have found ever in my life. But I put her on it and she went on it, and it was wonderful. The other thing I'm incredibly grateful for her is not just her field work and everything, but the actual day of the festival. I mean, those of you who work for struggling little nonprofits, which Eldred Street was at the time, we had no money for anything. And our tables were covered with, crappy little tablecloths that didn't match. And she walked in and she's like, Hannah, we can do better than that. And the one thing is that she made us have a look. We got the same colored tablecloths on all the folk artist tables. And it was a huge mind. Like I didn't have time to focus on those kind of details. And she really helped me professionalize the festival over the years. So it went from ragtag to, nice looking. That wasn't, it looked professional. And I love Jean for that as well, helping me to realize, like to make time to make things look nice. Like it wasn't just the great artists that we had, but we had to give them a good place to work from on that street festival. And then the other thing was I had gotten a huge grant to organize all these 100 klezmer musicians to come take a photograph in front of the Eldred Street project and then go on tour, I think it was a week's tour with 13 of those musicians all around upstate New York. And I got to hire Jean to be one of my drivers and help present it and everything. And it was so great. That's all I can say is to have her. And I'd never gone on a band tour. It wasn't Led Zeppelin, and I didn't, it was still traveling with musicians and being attentive to their needs and the green room that I didn't realize was so important to make sure that these musicians got fed snacks, like the little details that I just didn't have in my brain. She taught me a lot about how to work with the musicians and keep them happy on the road. And I don't think we had a cranky day on that tour, and it was wonderful to have her there, literally beside me. We had to share a room every day and go over and we had to do workshops as well as present concerts. And I remember Sherry came to one of our first concert actually on tour. With our first stop was in Poughkeepsie, and Sherry and her husband came, and it was so nice to see somebody in the audience that I knew and to think like, oh yeah, this could be a great hit. So Jean, I would say, is consummate professional had a great sense of humor, and so really, really taught me how to fine tune things like that. And I'm forever grateful, because when you're in the middle of the planning, sometimes you don't think about that stuff. And she was such a great outsider eye for me, and I really learned a lot from her. And it was always a pleasure. It wasn't work, and everybody, I should say, in my office at Eldred Street, I saw a couple of them today. As a matter of fact, I happened to be down in Chinatown, and they all say how much they loved her. She really became a part of our office during the time she worked with us, and they loved her as much as I did, and that's a great sign. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Sadhna, would you like to say something?
Yeah, a lot of people have said most of the things, and she was amazing. I was at a little party and I was doing henna, and that's where she found me. And since then I got involved with Art Council, and we do miss her because it was so sudden. And then I started real estate, and she came to me, and the mother, I met her mother also, and we saw some homes, and she bought through me. So I was in such shock when I heard what happened, and it was, I miss her still. I mean, I've met so many nice people and everybody, but she was amazing. I think I just did. That's good.
And Sadhna still does Mendy for us, and now we're sort of shifting Sadhna into cooking. As I said, she'll be featured in a video that will premiere in March, and I'm so grateful to Jean for introducing me to basically laying the foundation that I get to work with Alice and Ray and Sadhna and Josephine and Sherry, you know.
And I think because of her, I met so many other nice artists and people around, you know, it's really nice.
Nancy, do you want to, because I hear she did some work in Long Island.
Well, actually, first, I kind of like to talk about my friendship with Jean, because that actually began before we actually worked together. You know, I met Jean at a round table, and, you know, we all have, you know, somewhat similar backgrounds, but there were two things about Jean that kind of bonded us together. The first was that we both drove stick shifts, which meant we really couldn't carpool with anybody else because we didn't want them to ruin our car. So the two of us used to drive to the round table together because we could spell each other. And back then it was in Syracuse. Sometimes it was, you know, out, you know, in the Finger Lakes. And so we used to, you know, hook up, you know, in the morning in Poughkeepsie. I would drive up there, and then we would listen to all kinds of really interesting music. And we found out that we both, you know, liked, you know, the Talking Heads and a couple of other different groups. And then when I found out that she was a Deadhead, I said, "Oh, you're going to have to meet Nick." You know, but she and I met before I was even dating, let alone married. So we also shared some of those personal struggles on how to meet, you know, your mate. And so I got to know a little bit about, you know, how she and Javier, wasn't that her husband? Raphael. Rafi is what she called him. And so it was just wonderful that we could both find men that we loved. And then the other thing that brought us together is we both like to ski, which is also not that common among folklore. So she would go to Sugarbush, we would go to Stowe, and we would, you know, talk about, you know, how the skiing was, you know, and you know, I got to know a little bit about her family, and it was just really wonderful. And, you know, sometimes she would come down to Long Island because she wanted to go to the beach. So we would go to the beach and, you know, just do things together. So after knowing each other, you know, for several years, I thought to myself, well, gee, I would really like to work with Jean. And so one of the things that we did together is, well, first she often presented some of the ethnic folk artists that I was working with here, especially the Latino artists. We had, a Dominican group that I was working with. We also had a gospel group that she helped present. And, she would stay over and, we just did, some really wonderful things. And I was asked by a library to help them start a cultural ethnography project. And so I thought to myself, well, Jean is really, the perfect person to work with this on me. So we had enough money so that, we could, bring her in. And we decided that we wanted to write, something that people could take home and give them things to think about. So if it's okay, I would like to share my screen real quick, but you need to make me a co-host, I think. Eleanor, you're muted. Eleanor?
I just made you a co-host.
Okay, great. So this is what we put together. And, a lot of it, was, we both worked with a graphic designer and, putting together the different contents. I'm gonna make this a little bigger so you can see, how to do interviews, finding a topic, different subjects that you can talk to people about.
Can I interject? I use this for my school. Tell them how I use this for my school.
And back in those days, we didn't have digital anything. So when Eleanor, you're talking about, the cassettes, processing your tapes, because we didn't have anything else at that point. So.
Yeah, as a middle school teacher, I use this for when I interviewed. I had my students do assignments because I had a lot of where I taught. A lot of my students were a very multicultural school where I taught at.
So, I was, really fortunate to be able to work with her, and oh boy, I really miss her, and, all the great things that she was doing, and getting that store open. I just loved that.
Nancy, would you send me the PDF of that work?
Sure.
That would be great.
I can definitely do that.
Although the technology has changed, the basic foundations of interviewing have not. So.
Well, I'm actually going to be updating it because I'm working with somebody else now in the Puerto Rican and Latino community, and they're going to be using some version of this.
If they ever translate it into Spanish, let me know.
We have a Spanish version.
Ooh, please send me both.
Okay, but let's update it first, and then I can send you the updated versions. You don't have to process your tapes.
It's slow going. I really need an intern and just plop them down with it. Would anyone, I've sort of called on everyone I know with the exception of Joe, Josephine, and Eve. If either of you would like to speak, or if someone I don't know would like to jump in, that would be fine too.
I remember coming up and helping Jean at the Poughkeepsie Festival, and I think it may have been Ray and his group that were there. I know there was, it was a gospel festival, and there were a couple of different groups, and it was just lovely.
That was the Hudson River Arts Festival down at the river.
Yeah.
That they did. We did for many years, and then that shifted to Beacon. And then I'm afraid I killed the Beacon one in the end. In a shift in focus, that we started doing different things. So anyone else would like to?
She also worked. She also worked. I don't know, Sherry, if she had a side job or not, but she also worked with a group called the Chosen Ones, and they were a popular quartet style gospel group. And I believe that's who you were talking about, Nancy, because they really took off, And they really missed her when she was gone because they were really doing a lot of great things with their music. Because, I mean, they were all local guys that had a real good sound. And, they just, Jane seemed to have found the venues for them. I don't want to say, that she was their road manager because.
Well, I was going to say she did end up managing them at one point in time.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Alice?
I want to add to that, I would have to say that I never know what is a folklorist, but then working with Jean, she elevated my volunteering to become a folklorist. It gave it so much meaning. I still remember that when she came, when we do the project with the Mid-Hudson Children's Museum, the Rivertown project, she would ask me, what is of value, what you can share. So I look into my kitchen cabinet, I look into what I can share with that. I gave her my rolling pin to that one, the one, yeah. So to represent things that we would do, because a lot of us would use the rolling pins to make baozi, the buns, the dumplings. And for the Chinese celebration, she would collect one of my candy bowls that have all these different apartments. And I would give her my children's old Chinese New Year costumes so that she could put into the museum and for children to try. After that, I think, oh, there's so many things that we could share. It's just like regular daily things, because obviously I'm not an artist, I'm not artist by trade, but then I have the craft that I can share with other culture. And by going to all the festivals, I know about the community, I know about my neighborhood, and I can now call myself, the folk florist. I think that is very important for someone that is on the part that, you don't have something that I didn't go to school to learn to make dumplings. I didn't go to school to learn to share how do we play the huazi. It's just like the jacks. If you have to understand what it is, the game that we use beans and just cloth to sew up tiny bean bags, 5 of them, and you toss in the air, all those things to share. So from that part on, we were able to expand our program into much more, many more colors, many more aspects. And other than just a lot of us know that about calligraphy, we expand on that. So that is something I want to share. And I get to work with Kate Daly. I don't know whether anyone remember her from the Mid-Hudson Children's Museum. So yeah, so that's what I want to add. And that is some very good time for art.
Dare, would you like to share something?
Yeah, I mean, I just generally I'm so grateful to the whole field that you people represent. Jean was a very special person. I agree with everything everybody said. I wish I'd known her better. I just treasured every opportunity I had with her. But the field is just opened my eyes a lot. I was in arts administration. I ran an arts center and then a writer's center. And I've just been in it a long time, but it's and NISCA was so helpful too in the grants they supply and the information that the training that they give administrators like me, and just seeing this field for what it can contribute to the other work that we're doing. And it was so, I remember talking to, it's Robert Barron, right? This is the name that comes to mind. Getting older, we forget names. It just like, oh my gosh. So So not crocheted toilet paper holders, but something, something between there and what I'm doing is really art. And I learned to understand the integrity of the process and the searching for the truly authentic work that was out there in the world, and authentic really more as a process than necessarily than the product, but often the product was wonderful too. And I was a Quaker as a kid, but I really didn't join the Quakers until I retired about 10 years ago. But I realized it also ties in with that idea of the holiness of each individual and of the communities. And, it's just, I realize now why it spoke to me so deeply. And I just want to thank you all for the work that you do. We're very lucky to have you all. And I know it's not, you're not going to get rich and you're not going to be widely appreciated in the way that popular culture is, but it's really, really, really important work.
I think you'll find that for many of us, it's a vocation, it's an avocation, we're passionate. I think we all joke that we never get a vacation because we're always folklorists. We can't, it's hard to turn it off. We have a colleague who will go nameless right now, who used to go scuba diving on vacations because that was the only way she could actually relax and escape culture for even if it was just for an hour under the water. Would anyone else like to share any of the people that I don't know?
I'm going to ask Robin to turn her camera on because I haven't seen her in a long, long time.
Hang on.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm here as a friend of Jean. We went to grad school together. She was one of my dearest friends. And even though we were in different years, and then I went back to the American Folklife Center and she went on to New York, we did our first intense field work together in the Missouri boot heel. And she was the music person and I'm musically illiterate. So
I know the feeling.
I really enjoyed going on her excursions, and then she came with me on mine later, and I worked on a couple of her festivals, I think. But I just came to hear really about her legacy and some of the things, the chosen ones and the Committee de mi Gente. It's just funny to hear those things because they really bring her back. But that's why I'm here. I'm still at the Library of Congress, but I'm no longer a folklorist, so it never stops, like Eleanor was just saying. And you're never not a folklorist once you're a folklorist.
You're just in another phase.
That's it for me.
Yeah, even if the rest of you don't have a lot to say, if you could just like turn on your camera for a minute and just tell us how you knew Jean, that would be enough. That would be great.
I'm Jean's sister, Sarah. And I took some pictures of some of the brochures of festivals she worked on. I've got 4 of them. If you want to, I don't know if I can share my screen, but I could show them.
Let me see.
Let's see.
Yeah, I can make you a co-host.
Let's see if I can do this. Here we go. I'm going to play it and just like pause it as we go through. Can you guys see it now?
Yes.
Yes. Great.
So you might see even, I don't know if any of your names are on there, but this was one. And then see what comes up next. This was another, and I actually helped her do the design on the graphics. And here's another one, Robert Barron or something. Yeah. And, oh, so anyway, I just thought I would share those with you.
Thank you. So so I guess I'm following Jean in my career as well, not just here, but starting next year as part of my New York folklore work, I will actually be going to working in Rockland County. So it'll be interesting to see. Sarah, I would love to have copies of these because they wouldn't be in the Dutchess County archives.
Okay.
But yeah, Rockland does not have a folklorist still, so I'm going to be going in. And I should also mention I'm going to learn. I'm not going to learn how to play. I'm going to learn how to play the button accordion. So I had no idea she played the accordion, but a couple of months ago I decided I wanted to learn how to play the button accordion. Thank you so much for coming.
And I could scan those in and send them to you.
That would be wonderful. That would be really helpful as we start. I'll be working with someone else as we go in. And we have a lady there who I met through some other people. Really, she's Haitian and she really wants to do a rice festival. So we're looking to do a rice festival in Rockland. Great, thank you so much. Marie Price.
Yes, I'm Jean's sister-in-law, Sarah's sister-in-law, and another friends on the call, Alan and Rosemary. Alan, I think, alerted me that this event was going on, and so I thought it'd be wonderful to hear how Jean's professional colleagues and friends knew her. There's a lot that's very familiar. We also got gifted cassette tapes that she would make of amazing mixes of music and would introduce us all to, old favorites and brand new musicians. And we still have those and enjoy them. And what I've learned from listening to Jean's friends over the years is what an amazingly kind person she was. And I think most of the family would be not surprised, but what she did, but just had no idea all the work she was doing because she just didn't talk about it. She just was a doer. She did things and wasn't out for any recognition. We could use more people like that. So thank you for gathering and sharing your stories.
Would the Thomases like to come on just for turn their cameras on for just a second, or you don't have to?
Yeah, sure, I'll say something. So I knew Jean for just a few years, and I knew her through festivals in Beacon. When I first met Jean, she was displaying the crafts from Mexico that she would bring up. And in the few years that I knew her, she sort of expanded and she brought in a Mexican rug weaver who would do a demonstration. And he was just remarkable. And then she had a friend from Zimbabwe, and he did wire sculptures. And that was just the way Jean was. You didn't have to know her long, and you felt like you knew her for a very long time. And she was very kind and very connected with artisans who had unique niches where they would come and really added to the events. So Jean was much loved in the Beacon community, and she is missed.
Thank you.
I guess I would just add that I've known Jean, I guess, since she was a teenager, maybe. And I had no idea that she was even in the Poughkeepsie area until one day at a festival. I looked across the aisle and there she was. I was selling chili, and there she was with her Mexican handicrafts, and then we started to connect again, and you know, socially, we don't have much of a connection with her from the folklore side, but anyway, and so I am loosely connected with the Mid-Hudson Arts through the Beacon Sloop Club, and so I saw the event and I passed it along to some other friends. So.
Thank you very much for that. And we need to talk. We should do more stuff together. I'm putting it on my list for January. Eve?
Sure. There we go. I wasn't prepared. Hey, I see a bunch of old friends there. So I don't know that I actually worked with Jean, but I think I knew her. I met her first when she was doing a papel picado workshop at the library, and I was working at the Children's Museum. And I feel like there were a number of years where we kept saying, oh, we should work together. And I would go to a lot of the programs that she put on, and I brought the kids. And, you know, I must say, I always appreciated that those programs were happening, you know, in Poughkeepsie, and it was easy to take them to take the kids to and have them see, you know, things from other cultures. I think, I don't know, I know Alice talked about doing helping on the exhibit at the Children's Museum, and I can't even remember if that is how we connected with Jean, because I was there when that exhibit was happening. And certainly I would see her, you know, in a lot of events and things, and, you know, just always appreciated what she did, and echoing everybody else, you know, and how nice she was and how welcoming. I do remember, I was remembering recently, we did go even on a posada. There was a posada walk in Poughkeepsie, I want to say 15, 20 years ago. And she was like, yeah, just come, you know, and we were just in somebody's house, and we'd go to everybody else's house. And it was just all very, very nice and open and welcoming.
Thank you. Good to see you.
I wasn't prepared though.
That's okay. Oh, like you knew you had to know I was going to call you. Oh, do you want to say anything? Right?
Yes.
Do you want to say something? It just kind of clicked to you. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add or share?
Well, you said I should say something, right?
Oh, okay. Well, there you are then. I didn't. Can we see you too?
Yeah, I know. I didn't know Jean personally, but I think I met a lot of nice people. I think I benefited for her being there, like with Sadna, Alice, some wonderful people that I met through her. But I've heard some wonderful things about her. And I'm just sorry I missed meeting and working with her. That's it.
Josephine, it's good to hear your voice.
Oh, thank you.
After so long.
You want me to sing you a song?
Yes, that would be fine.
Well, it was nice seeing everyone.
Have you ever heard Josephine sing?
She has a nice voice.
Yes,
Don't
she does.
start, right?
I'm sure she can sing.
Yes, she can. Yes, she can.
She just
Everyone
hides
have a
behind
nice
that
holiday.
camera.
Have a nice holiday.
You all too. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight and sharing these memories and helping me see more clearly the foundation that Jean laid and the lasting effects of the relationships she built with you that allowed for Eileen and Polly and then myself to keep building on those relationships and working with the artists in Dutchess County. And now, of course, we've spread to Ulster and Orange counties as well. And, you know, I knew I had big shoes to fill with Polly, and I realized that they were really even bigger than I thought.
You're doing fine.
Thank you, Ray. As I said, we have revived the gospel concert into a festival in October, so keep an eye out for that. And we still do the Kingston Multicultural Festival and moving into some other things. So all of you folk artists from the area, I'll be in touch with you in the new year. Just, you know, to start some new programming. Maybe it's time to also revive the advisory council. So, again, thank you all for coming. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording now. And I wish all of you a lovely holiday season. I am winging it to the West Coast tomorrow morning to see my parents for the first time in 3 years.
Have a
All right.
wonderful trip, Eleanor.
Thank you.
Have fun.